The moment you failed, it probably felt like everything stopped, like the road ended and there was nothing ahead but doubt, silence, and questions about your own ability. But what if that moment wasn't the end at all? What if it was the first time life was asking you a real question? Not about your talent, not about your luck, but about your commitment. Because success never asks who you truly are, but failure always does. And the way you respond in this moment will quietly decide whether this story ends here or whether it is only just beginning. Failure reveals hidden opportunities, not in a loud or obvious way, but quietly, almost secretly. The way the most important truths in life usually appear: when something falls apart, when a plan collapses, when effort does not produce the result you prayed for. It feels like the end of the road. Emotionally, failure feels like rejection, like proof that you were not enough, not ready, not smart, not lucky. But beneath that surface pain, failure is doing something powerful. It is clearing fog, it is stripping illusions. It is forcing you to see realities you were too comfortable, too hopeful, or too afraid to notice before. Success often hides opportunities because it rewards what already exists. Failure, on the other hand, exposes what could exist if you are brave enough to look closer. Think about how many people stay stuck in lives they do not truly want simply because things are working well enough. A job pays the bills, a routine feels safe, a path seems acceptable. There is no urgency to question it, no pressure to look deeper. Then failure arrives, you lose the job, the business collapses. The plan you trusted breaks down. At first, it feels cruel, but suddenly, you are forced to ask questions you never asked before. What do I actually want? What am I capable of beyond this role? What other doors exist that I never explored because this one was open? Failure removes comfort, and comfort is often the biggest enemy of hidden opportunity. One of the most powerful examples of this is Steve Jobs. When he was fired from Apple, the very company he co-founded, it was publicly humiliating and deeply painful. He later described it as one of the most devastating experiences of his life. At that moment, it looked like a catastrophic failure. The world saw a young visionary pushed out of his own creation, but that failure forced Jobs into a new phase of exploration. He founded Next, experimented freely, learned to build better teams, and invested deeply in Pixar. Those years refined his vision, his leadership, and his creativity in ways that success at Apple never would have allowed. When he eventually returned, he was no longer the same man. The failure revealed an opportunity to grow into the leader Apple needed. Without that fall, the Apple we know today might not exist. Hidden opportunities are often invisible because they require you to become someone different to see them. Failure accelerates that transformation. When things go wrong, your weaknesses come into focus. Your habits, your assumptions, your blind spots, things you ignored when results were good, are suddenly undeniable. This is uncomfortable, but it is also incredibly valuable. Failure gives you feedback that success never gives. It shows you where your thinking is shallow, where your skills are incomplete, where your effort is misdirected. Inside that feedback is opportunity. The opportunity to rebuild smarter, stronger, and more aligned with reality. Consider a relatable story. Imagine someone who dreams of becoming a professional athlete. They train hard, sacrifice time, and believe fully that talent will carry them forward. Then comes failure. They are cut from the team, injured, or simply outperformed. The dream seems shattered, but in that moment, a hidden opportunity appears. They may discover a deeper passion for coaching, sports psychology, fitness training, or even storytelling and media. Many former athletes find their true calling because their original dream failed. The failure didn't end their relationship with the sport. It redirected it into a form that fit them better and lasted longer. Failure also reveals opportunities by showing you what truly matters. When you lose something, you realize its value or its absence. Some people fail in careers they thought they wanted, only to realize they were chasing status, approval, or fear rather than genuine purpose. That realization can be painful, but it is liberating. It opens the door to work that feels meaningful instead of merely impressive. Many entrepreneurs who fail their first business later say that failure clarified their values. They stopped chasing quick wins and started building things that solved real problems. The opportunity wasn't just a new business idea, it was a new relationship with work itself. Look at J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, she faced repeated failures. She was rejected by multiple publishers, lived in financial hardship, and battled self-doubt. From the outside, her situation looked bleak, but that failure gave her something crucial: freedom. She later said she had hit rock bottom, which meant she had nothing to lose. That freedom allowed her to focus entirely on telling the story she believed in, without trying to impress anyone. The opportunity hidden in her failure was creative honesty. If her early attempts had succeeded just enough, she might have compromised her vision. Failure gave her the courage to commit fully. Failure also sharpens resilience, and resilience creates opportunities others cannot access. Many doors in life only open to people who can endure discomfort, uncertainty, and repeated setbacks. When you fail and keep going, you build a psychological strength that becomes an advantage. You become less afraid of rejection, more willing to try unconventional paths, more capable of surviving uncertainty. Opportunities often exist in places where risk is high and guarantees are low. People who have never failed tend to avoid those spaces. People who have failed and survived know they can handle it. There is also a subtle opportunity in failure that many people overlook: clarity of identity. When you fail, especially publicly, the masks fall off. You are no longer protected by titles, achievements, or external validation. You are forced to confront who you are without success. This can be terrifying, but it is also grounding. When you rebuild from that place, you build on something real. Many people who experience major failure say it helped them detach their self-worth from outcomes. That emotional independence allows them to take bolder actions later, because they are no longer defined by results alone. Failure reveals opportunities by slowing you down. In a world obsessed with speed and constant progress, failure forces pause. That pause creates space for reflection, learning, and recalibration. Think of how often people rush forward, repeating the same mistakes because they never stop to examine them. Failure interrupts that cycle. It asks you to stop, look, and listen. In that stillness, new ideas emerge. New paths become visible. What felt like wasted time becomes incubation time. Even on a smaller, everyday level, this truth holds. Someone applies for a job and gets rejected. Initially, it feels personal and discouraging. But that rejection might push them to improve skills, explore a different field, or start something of their own. Years later, they may realize that rejection protected them from a toxic environment or limited growth. The opportunity wasn't visible at the moment of failure. It became clear only with time and perspective. The key is not failure itself, but how you respond to it. Failure reveals opportunities only to those willing to look honestly at what went wrong without drowning in shame. It requires humility to admit mistakes and courage to try again differently. If you treat failure as a verdict on your worth, you miss the opportunity. If you treat it as information, as redirection, as a rough but honest teacher, it becomes one of the most powerful forces for growth. Failure often points you toward paths that align more closely with your true strength. Many people succeed early in areas they are merely good at, not exceptional at. That early success keeps them locked into a path that never fully fits. Failure can break that lock. It pushes you out of roles that limit you and toward environments where your natural abilities can shine. The opportunity is not always bigger or more glamorous. Sometimes it is simply more right. As you listen to this, it is important to remember that failure does not need to be dramatic to be meaningful. It can be quiet, a missed chance, a relationship that ends, a goal you abandon. Each one contains information. Each one is pointing you somewhere. The question is whether you are willing to follow that signal instead of resisting it. If you are going through failure right now, understand this: you are not at the end. You are at a crossroads you might never have reached otherwise. Something in your life is being cleared to make room for something else. You may not see it yet, and that is okay. Opportunities revealed by failure rarely arrive fully formed. They start as discomfort, confusion, and doubt. But if you stay curious, if you stay open, if you keep moving forward even slowly, those fragments begin to connect. One day, you may look back and realize that the moment you thought you were losing everything was the moment you gained direction, depth, and strength. Failure did not ruin your path, it reshaped it. It stripped away what was fragile and revealed what was possible. And when you understand that, failure stops being something you fear. It becomes something you respect, because you know that hidden inside it is the opportunity to become more than you ever were before. Failure is the true measure of your commitment, because commitment is not proven when things are easy, applauded, or rewarding. Anyone can feel motivated when progress is visible and effort produces praise. Anyone can claim dedication when the path feels exciting and success seems close. But commitment is not tested in comfort, it is tested in resistance. It is tested in moments when effort hurts, when results disappear, when doubt becomes louder than hope, and when quitting would be logical, socially acceptable, and emotionally relieving. Failure is the moment when your words are no longer enough and only your actions speak. It asks a single brutal question: do you want this badly enough to continue even when it costs you something real? When failure enters your life, it removes every external reason to keep going. The applause fades, encouragement becomes scarce, the future becomes uncertain. This is where true commitment reveals itself, because what remains is not motivation, but you choose whether to continue waking up early when no one is watching. You choose whether to keep practicing when improvement feels invisible. You choose whether to stay loyal to a dream that has not yet proven its loyalty to you. Failure strips the journey down to its core, and in doing so, it exposes whether your commitment was conditional or absolute. Think about how many people say they want something deeply, yet disappear the moment resistance shows up. They say they want success, growth, mastery, or change, but only as long as it arrives without humiliation, loss, or repeated disappointment. Failure is not cruel for revealing this. It is honest. It reveals whether the desire was real or just a reaction to inspiration. Commitment is not what you feel when you start. It is what you do when you want to stop. Consider the story of Thomas Edison. We often celebrate him for inventing the light bulb, but what truly defined his commitment was not the success. It was the failure that came before it. He failed thousands of times while experimenting with different materials. When asked about these failures, he famously said he had not failed, but discovered thousands of ways that did not work. What is often overlooked is not the optimism of that statement, but the endurance behind it. Anyone can experiment a few times and walk away. Commitment is returning to the work day after day while facing repeated evidence that your current approach is wrong. Failure measured Edison's commitment not because he never failed, but because he refused to let failure decide when the work was over. Failure tests your commitment by attacking your identity. When you fail, you don't just question the plan. You question yourself. You wonder if you are capable, if you are enough, if you misjudged your own potential. This internal conflict is where most people quit, not because the dream is impossible, but because continuing requires confronting uncomfortable truths about themselves. Commitment means staying in that discomfort long enough to grow through it. It means allowing failure to refine you instead of defining you. Look at athletes who reach the highest level of their sport. What separates them from those who quit is not talent alone, but their relationship with failure. Every elite athlete has faced loss, injury, rejection, and moments of humiliation. Michael Jordan was famously cut from his high school basketball team. That failure did not discourage him. It clarified his commitment. He chose to work harder, not because success was guaranteed, but because the goal mattered enough to suffer for it. Failure didn't weaken his dedication. It revealed it. Failure also exposes whether your commitment is rooted in purpose or ego. When success is tied to validation, status, or comparison, failure becomes unbearable because it threatens your self-image. But when commitment is tied to purpose, failure becomes part of the process. Many entrepreneurs experience this shift. Their first business fails, and with it goes money, pride, and certainty. Some walk away forever, wounded and resentful. Others stay, learn, rebuild, and return stronger. The difference is not intelligence or luck. It is commitment to the mission beyond personal embarrassment. A relatable example can be found in students who struggle academically. Some students fail an exam and immediately decide they are not smart enough. Others fail and decide they are not working effectively enough. The failure is the same. The commitment is different. One allows failure to end the journey. The other uses it as feedback and continues. Commitment shows itself not in how you celebrate success, but in how you interpret failure. Failure measures commitment by demanding patience. In a world trained for instant results, patience is rare and powerful. Failure slows progress and forces repetition. It asks you to invest time without immediate reward. This is where commitment becomes visible. Because patience is not passive, it is active endurance. It is continuing to show up while trusting that effort will compound, even when evidence is scarce. Many people quit not because they are incapable, but because they underestimate how long commitment truly takes. Consider the journey of J.K. Rowling again, not just as a story of success, but as a study of commitment. She was rejected repeatedly. Each rejection was an invitation to stop believing. She could have rationally quit, blamed the industry, or adjusted her story to fit expectations. Instead, she continued to submit the same story because she believed in it. Failure did not discourage her because her commitment was not dependent on approval. It was anchored in belief. Failure also reveals commitment by forcing sacrifice. When things are going well, sacrifices feel optional. When failure strikes, sacrifices become unavoidable. You may need to give up comfort, time, social approval, or financial security. Commitment is measured by what you are willing to give up when the outcome is uncertain. Anyone can sacrifice for guaranteed success. Very few can sacrifice for a possibility. Failure places you in that exact position. There is a quiet courage required to continue after failure that most people never talk about. It is not loud or dramatic. It is waking up and doing the work again without confidence. It is continuing even when enthusiasm is gone. It is choosing discipline over emotion. This is the purest form of commitment because it is not fueled by excitement, but by decision. Failure burns away false motivation and leaves only what is real. Failure also teaches you whether your commitment is flexible or fragile. Fragile commitment breaks when the plan fails. Flexible commitment adapts. The goal remains, but the methods evolve. Many successful people failed not because they lacked commitment, but because they were committed to the wrong approach. Failure forced them to adjust without quitting. That adjustment is commitment in action. Think about relationships. Commitment in relationships is not proven during happy moments, but during conflict, misunderstanding, and disappointment. The same principle applies to goals. When everything aligns, commitment is easy. When things fall apart, commitment is tested. Failure asks whether you are committed to the outcome or just the convenience. If you are experiencing failure right now, understand this clearly. This moment is not asking you to succeed. It is asking you to decide. Decide whether this dream is worth the discomfort. Decide whether this path matters enough to continue imperfectly. Decide whether your commitment is strong enough to survive doubt. You do not need clarity. You do not need confidence. You need honesty. Honest commitment is quieter than motivation, but far more powerful. Failure does not mean you are uncommitted. Quitting does. Struggling does not disqualify you. Stopping does. As long as you are still trying, adjusting, learning, and returning, your commitment is alive. Failure simply reveals its depth. One day, when you look back on your journey, the moments you will respect yourself for the most will not be your wins. They will be the moments when you could have stopped but chose not to. When failure gave you every reason to walk away and you stayed, that is where character is built. That is where identity is formed. That is where commitment proves itself, not in words, not in intentions, but in endurance. Failure is not the opposite of commitment. It is the environment in which commitment is measured, refined, and strengthened. If you are still standing after failure, still trying, still learning, still believing enough to take the next step, then understand this deeply. Your commitment is real, and real commitment, given enough time, always finds a way forward. So if you are standing in a season where things have not worked out, where effort has met resistance and hope feels tired, understand this clearly. You are not behind, you are being tested. This moment is not here to break you, it is here to reveal you. Failure is asking you to choose. Choose growth over comfort, persistence over fear, purpose over excuses. You don't need to have everything figured out right now. You only need the courage to take the next honest step, even if your hands are shaking while you take it. Let this be the moment you stop waiting for confidence and start acting with commitment. Let this be the day you decide that your dreams are not dependent on perfect conditions, approval, or instant results. Use failure as fuel. Let it sharpen your focus, strengthen your discipline, and deepen your belief in yourself. Every time you rise after falling, you are building something inside you that